We're just ordinary people living ordinary lives until we see someone on TV win a $25,000 prize. Come on down. I'll play any game for 10 seconds of fame. Come on down. I'll make a deal, just let me spin the wheel. Come on down. To win $1 million, all you need is a little luck and thorough knowledge of multiple disparate trivial subjects.
All right, welcome back to an all-new episode of Come On Down, the game show podcast, hosted by me, John Baker.
And me, Mr. Sandiego.
Mr. Sandiego?
Yeah.
So you're the dad of
real talk?
Carmen Sandiego?
Real talk?
Uh-huh.
My wife has been missing for such a long time.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I'm about to find her,
Uh-huh.
and she jumps continents. I cannot afford to chase my wife around the world. If anybody has any information about where she is, I would love to have her come back and continue our beautiful life that I thought we both enjoyed.
All right. So today on the show, I think this is a first for us because we have in the previous time what?
In the underworld?
Previous time. Underworld is like hell.
Okay.
In the past, you might even say. Why is there so much noise going on in your house right now?
We decided to buy our pup a toy that is the similar weight of a 5-pound dumbbell.
So 5 pounds?
A 5-pound
Instead
dumbbell.
How much does it weigh? It weighs similarly to a 5-pound dumbbell.
Right. So
how tall are you? I'm similar to a 5'10" wildebeest.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you put a whole bunch of 5-pound dumbbells that equal about 5 foot 10 inches, that's how much
Okay.
I am.
So anyway, we've done in the past, like we did Nick Arcade, which was a show featuring video games.
Yes.
We've done many shows, including like we talked about 1 versus 100, how that had an Xbox game,
right?
That was really fun to play. I think this is the first time we've done a game show based on a video game.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
I would call it a computer game.
You wouldn't call a computer game a video game?
No.
Were there video?
Because I feel like video games. I guess video games were a thing, but I never really called it a video game.
I think a video game is just like, or a computer game is just an old person's way of saying video game.
Yeah.
What are you playing those computer games again?
I would call Carmen Sandiego absolutely a computer game.
Okay. Today we're going to be talking about where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. Do you know?
At the end of this episode, my co-host here, John Baker, will be playing a short version of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Oh, is that true?
Yes,
I'm excited. So, before we get started, I guess we have an ad.
We do?
I'll read it now.
Sure.
Qs.docx. That's the one?
Didn't need to say the title of the file.
Got it. Our game show today is driven by the insatiable need for knowledge. It drives innovation and keeps societies moving forward. Questions are the coal that feed the fire of engines responsible for constant forward motion, just like the Lusitania.
Didn't the Lusitania sink, killing over 1,000 people?
Great question. My answer? Gotta break a couple eggs to make an omelet. And today's sponsor has a book chock full of life's greatest questions, The Ultimate Book of Questions.
Questions like what?
Why?
Who said that?
Socrates. And every 3 to 5-year-old. It has other questions like, is the moon made of cheese? Have you ever sensed that our soul is immortal and never dies? Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Would you rather read minds or accurately predict the future?
Ooh. Come On Down listeners receive 10% off their first order with the code, Where in the World is my discount code?
The Ultimate Book of Qs. Begin your knowledge journey towards the land of answers. Answers not included. So the book is just a bunch of questions with no answers.
That is correct.
Okay.
Conversation starters, if you will.
Last night, the night of before us
the night of the
this,
before time?
Yes. A night in the before time. I watched a film on Amazon Prime called The Tomorrow War.
Film is kind of like what an old dumbass geezer would call a movie.
I watched this film called The Tomorrow War on Amazon.
With Mr. Pratt.
Yes, it's got Chris Pratt it's got other people as well. It's not just a one-man show or anything like
Sure.
that. There are other people,
Uh-huh.
and they have names.
I'm sure they do. Both first and last names, probably.
Yep. Like the chick from Glow.
She has 4 names, so she must
Betty
be
Gilpin.
Hispanic.
Betty Gilpin is her
Okay.
name.
Ooh, I wouldn't say her name again.
And
It's a bad name.
Yvonne Strahovski, for example.
Cool name.
And that funny black guy.
Yikes.
What?
Also, he has 4 names.
4 names, exactly. And the fat guy from Love on Netflix.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a movie. It involves a war in the future and some time travel situations.
So a great title.
And so it got me thinking about things.
Mm-hmm.
And like this book of questions seems to have had a lot of the same questions that I had after last night.
Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar?
Yeah, stuff like that. And like, we're probably all just a simulation of some more advanced race than us. And we're all just...
So we're the avatars of a race that's more advanced. So,
right. And we're all just
Okay.
rats in a cage. And the robots...
Is the cage the Earth or our solar system?
Yeah, I guess like whatever we live in. I don't know.
Okay.
And then I was trying to communicate this with my wife, and then I got kicked out of the bedroom because I was being a downer.
Because this was in the middle of sex.
Yes. It's what
You literally got kicked out of the bedroom?
I did get kicked out of the bedroom because I was being a downer. It's true.
That's so funny.
I mean,
I love how you go to your wife and you say, "I'm not feeling great. I'm having some serious thoughts about
some existential shit.
Yeah.
is going on.
And
right
she's
now.
like, "Be funny or get the fuck out."
That's pretty much how it goes. So, before we hop into Carmen Sandiego, I do have some breaking news that has just come across my desk.
About
Game show related news.
okay.
That has just come across my desk. Breaking. Sources are reporting to us, some of our top sources are reporting that Rodney Alcala, you may know him as the dating game killer, has passed away in prison on death row.
Moment of silence.
Yeah, he was waiting to die, and he did. And I don't think they were ever going to kill him.
Who's they?
The state.
Oh, okay.
Because you remember he did all this stuff in the 70s, and it's the 20s of the next century now.
Right.
And he still wasn't dead until a couple days ago.
Sure.
But now he is. Thank God.
Rest in peace.
Wait,
I hope
what?
you have a very peaceful rest.
No.
In the Lord of in the kingdom of heaven.
Like raped and murdered a bunch of women.
Right. And so peacefully sleep in the kingdom of heaven.
All right. So Rodney Alcala, you're dead now.
And I believe there's a Netflix show. Did we already talk about this?
About the dating game killer?
Yeah.
Is there? Did you watch it?
No, because I already lived it. I saw it. Talked about it.
Okay. It's a little worried there. So anyway, on to today's show. Now that we've got the depressing news.
Yeah. If
out of the
honestly,
way.
if all our listeners acted similarly than according with that your wife
What?
did,
We'd be kicked out of the
We'd be
bedroom
kicked
right
out of
now.
the- yeah.
Yeah, with that downer news. So, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
That's the $40,000 question.
That's it?
And if you're 12, come on the show and figure it out for $40,000.
No, for like a Walkman.
Oh.
So, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego was a video game, a computer game.
Thank you.
If you will.
You will.
A computer game released in 1985 by Broderbund, which fakely translates to Band of Brothers.
Ooh.
That
It's a show on HBO.
yes, it's kind of a German/Dutch sounding made up word that is supposed to kind of mean band of brothers.
Okay.
Broderbund. But it was an educational computer game software creator, developer. They made like Reader Rabbit and things like that as well.
Love that when he got in the briar patch.
That was Brer Rabbit.
And he had to read his way out of it.
Yeah. Before the fox came and got him. So this game was originally being created as a chasing thieves type of game. It was inspired by some other kind of computer interface types of games at the time. You got to remember in the 1980s, we didn't really have the computer technology that we have today. A lot of the computers at home were just text interfaces. It was, MS-DOS looking command line type of stuff. The Macintosh with like the mouse moving around and clicking on the desktop was only released the year before this in 1984.
The real magic came on little circles. They looked like if you were to take donuts and smash them down. And those were called CD-ROMs.
Yeah, I think this probably came on like a floppy disk, though.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I bet you it did.
I'm going to look it up.
The 80s? I think for sure. I think CD-ROM games probably weren't until like the 90s at some point. I mean, CDs existed as a form of music.
In the 90s, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
I probably wasn't playing this when I was 4.
You probably weren't playing this in 1985, the year before you were born.
No.
So
I was playing Don't Die in This Womb.
Yeah, so they were working on a way to kind of chase thieves with a word-based interface where you're answering questions to try and track these thieves down. One of the more senior people at the company said, well, what if we made it a geography thing where you're chasing them around the world, and then we could work out a deal with the World Almanac and include a copy of the World Almanac in the box.
The World Almanac, I feel like, is always seeping into stuff.
I mean, they've got their grimy little fingers and everything. They're kind of like the Freemasons or the Illuminati in that way.
This definitely was on floppy disks.
Yeah.
And you can get 1 through 5 for Windows, DOS 3.5 for $14.99 on eBay.
Pretty solid deal. Pretty solid deal. And we didn't even have to get paid to promote that one. So this game morphed into Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, a geography-based computer game in which Carmen Sandiego is like the top thief in the world.
And you never see her eyes.
She's got a hat, giving her a nice little disguise. Mm-hmm. And she's got a nice red overcoat as well.
Right. I would say probably would stick out like a sore thumb in any group of people.
Nah, you can't find her. And she was the lead of an organization known as VILE.
Mm.
And VILE, of course, was an acronym that stood for
Very International Lesbian Executive.
Kind of close. It stood for Villains International League of Evil.
Oh, okay.
Which seems like a really forced thing that they came up with after they came up with VILE. Because Villains International is kind of a weird way to phrase that.
Yeah. International Villain or International Society of Villains or something like that.
Yeah. So Villains International League of Evil, VILE. And they were being tracked down by the ACME Detective Agency, of which you, the player, were a de facto member.
Yeah.
And there were geography-based clues where you had to figure out, oh, I bet you they're in this country. And then you had to track down. You were basically, there was a warrant, and your goal was to fill out the warrant in order to place an arrest of one of these henchmen from VILE.
Mm-hmm. You're Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Exactly.
But international, and you get a whole lot. First, who's paying for these trips?
For the ACME or for the VILE?
For the ACME. The United States government?
Their employers.
So Acme.
Their clients. I don't know. They're the world, because they're stealing stuff from all over the world. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Can you imagine being a client and you're there for the quarterly meeting and they're like, we haven't found her. She skipped us again. And you're like, it's been 3 years. I've sunk millions of dollars into you finding this lady and you can't find her.
Because she's the best heist woman in the world.
Heist woman. Coming to Nickelodeon.
I'd watch it. Speaking of watch it, this of course developed into multiple video games, computer games.
Thank you.
Over the years. And then in 1991, it became a game show.
Finally.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Also was the name of the game show.
I mean, you can't title it anything else than that. Carmen Hunter.
Wow.
Headhunter. Like, I feel like you got to keep that brand alive.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego was the name of the show. And the thing about this show, and I feel like there's a tendency to say this about a lot of 80s and 90s stuff because it was a weird time.
Why are you holding your microphone like that?
What do you mean?
You have your 4 fingers on one side and the other 4 fingers on the other side. As if, because is it dipping?
No, I just...
Okay. You just weirdly grasp.
I was just doing stuff.
Okay.
So this, I was saying you can say this about a lot of stuff from the 80s and 90s. But I think it's never been more true than with this game show. Watching this is in many ways like a fever dream, a very strange fever dream.
But a really good fever dream that's coherent.
It has got to be the weirdest game show that we've talked about so far. And we've talked about some weird Japanese shit.
Yeah.
This game, because every episode told a story. You're trying to catch a specific henchman of Vile and solve a specific crime. So every episode told that story from right off the bat, like before the contestants or gumshoes are introduced.
Yeah.
And they've got weird costumes on. They're in the ACME Agency.
Yeah.
There's little skits that happen all throughout. There's little animated segments that happen all throughout. There's rockapella, which...
And they probably don't sing the entire time, right?
They sing the entire time. There is no music score on the game show that is not performed by rockapella. All of the thinking music, all of the transition music, obviously the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? All of that, all rockapella, all the time.
All greatness.
And some of the question rounds are also just like an original tune by rockapella set to this Beatles song about this mystery. And there are clues in their song that you have to use to suss out what the next location to check is. So, like I said, a lot of weird stuff. There are 3 contestants between like the ages of 9 and 13. This was filmed in New York. So they kind of just cast from local middle schools in the area.
Had them take a test.
They had them take a geography test. And I guess if you did good enough on the geography test, you might be on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, the game show.
Right. And if you did bad, they would feature you as one of the idiot henchmen that was going all around the world.
That's true. Like Patty Larceny.
Yep.
So they started doing this show in 1991 because there was a National Geographic survey that showed that Americans were real fucking dumb and bad at geography.
Okay,
So 1 in 4 Americans surveyed could not locate the Pacific Ocean on a map.
That's sad. I thought you were going to say something more specific like Liberia.
No. The Pacific Ocean. One of the 4 oceans of the world. One that we've got at least 5 U.S. states in contact with. The people couldn't identify where that was. Also, at the time, you got to remember this is Cold War times, where for the last 40, 50 years, we've been in constant fear of the Soviet Union murdering us all.
USSR.
Yes, the USSR. And also 1 in 4 people could not point at that on a map. Also, it's just like, because it was also just the giant country at the top of all of Asia and Europe, and people could not identify where that was, where the country that we've spent the last 40 years fearing was located on the map.
I do have a quick confession.
Yeah.
I was one of those people that didn't know where the Pacific Ocean was. I kept switching Pacific and Atlantic when we were first learning about geography. And so the way I remembered it is there were AP classes that smart kids would take. I was not a smart kid. So you flip it. So it's PA for me.
Is this a real thing?
It is a real thing. I always remember where the Pacific Ocean is because it is not AP.
So it's like, because in your mind, you're looking at the Earth and it's to the left of America.
Correct.
So it's first.
Yes.
That's kind of funny.
And then, so if you have the turn map upside down, I can't find it.
Can't find it. Screwed. That's funny. But also, yeah, you were a child, and we're talking about the entire population, 25%.
Sure. Okay.
Couldn't do this. So they decided we need to figure out a way to educate kids by tricking them with TV shows.
With fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So they made this TV show in 1991. It aired on PBS from 91 to 96. It was hosted by Greg Lee, who is known for hosting Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
Right.
He also was originally cast in News Radio.
Oh, wow.
They filmed the pilot with him in it, and then after the pilot, they fired him and recast him with Joe Rogan, and that was how we got Joe Rogan, because Greg Lee wasn't good enough on News Radio. But it aired for 295 episodes across those 5 years. It won 7 Daytime Emmy Awards. Pretty impressive, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
And it introduced a character.
And also a Peabody.
A Peabody Award. It did win a Peabody Award.
That's more impressive to me.
Than a Daytime Emmy?
I feel like Peabody's really hard to win.
Yeah, there are not like
you either have to write
of
a
them given out a year like there are with the Emmys.
Yeah.
So it introduced the chief of the ACME Detective Agency.
Yeah.
Played by Lynn Thigpen. And she was great. And she was so popular from this show that they then incorporated her into the future computer games.
Oh, that's cool.
So there wasn't a chief character originally, but then in the future games, like they had her record like cutscenes and things like that to incorporate into the games because she became so popular from this. Also, this show was big and this game series was big because of a word that we talk a lot more about now than we did in the 80s and early 90s, which is
rape culture.
What?
Is that not the word?
No.
I did not know where you were going with that.
No, I was going to say inclusivity.
Oh, okay.
Inclusivity.
Right.
The chief, Lynn Thigpen, was an African-American woman.
Hmm.
Black woman, I think we would say, instead of African-American.
Hold on, let me look it up real quick.
What she identified as?
Yeah.
And Carmen Sandiego was obviously a
white woman.
Hispanic woman.
No, she wasn't.
Carmen Sandiego. But they never used her Hispanic.
I couldn't see her eyes, so I didn't know.
That's why they never really talked about that as, you know, well, I mean, she's Hispanic, so of course she'll turn to a life of crime.
Oh,
they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So, and then there was also a lot of.
Also, what is her crime?
What is her crime?
What is the crime that she does?
Stealing.
What?
Everything. Anything. That's something we're going to talk about.
Is it similar to where Patty Larceny stole
a town?
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Anything.
Just by taking a picture of it.
Classic works of art. Things like that.
Okay.
National treasures.
So like the most closely guarded. Okay.
So, Lynn Thigpen, she was the chief. She, unfortunately, as seems to be a theme of famous people from game shows over the last 2 weeks, her brain exploded and killed her in 2003.
Are you serious?
She also had a massive brain hemorrhage, just like Grant Imahara.
And she was on a game show that dealt with a lot of questions and using her brain.
Yeah. Too much curiosity.
Too much curiosity.
Too much
will
curiosity.
Kill humans.
So the game started with obviously the introduction of that week's henchmen, and they would reuse them all the time. They didn't have to come up with 295 new punny henchmen.
Like, who would want to write like a new thing every single week? Like a
It's
totally,
more than every single week.
a totally new original thing.
So you think you could come up with 300 characters, henchmen of the vile organization, and then animate them all? And
Well, we didn't talk about that.
well, that's another aspect
Okay,
of it.
well,
you have to have a character model that's
I'll
animated.
write your names for you.
So there are 3 contestants. They each start for seemingly no reason whatsoever with 50 ACME bucks. And it's important to mention that there's seemingly no reason whatsoever, because if you miss questions, you don't lose money or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just for some reason the baseline, and it's not like the amount of money, the amount of ACME bucks you get determines any real money that you get. So the 50 just exists for no reason.
It's just
other
get
than
the
to be like,
most
oh,
at the end.
you've got some. Yeah, exactly. The only goal is to have the most points at the end, and you're not losing
The
points
most
for
bucks.
missing questions. Yeah, the most ACME bucks. I'm sorry. So I can't say I fully understand, unless it's just like a psychological thing. Like, kids don't want to feel like they have 0, so
Yeah.
let's give them something.
Sure.
So everybody started with 50 ACME bucks, and then there were multiple choice, 3 choice questions that were geography based. It would always be a very long question because it would have several clues contained within the question that would be like, in this city where Benjamin Franklin discovered electricity.
Philadelphia.
Okay, but could you calm down for a second? Because there are like other clues.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of brotherly love and
Pennsylvania.
a bell that has a little crack in it.
Liberty, Kansas.
Maybe you could hide in that crack if you're a criminal or something like that. And then it would be like, is Patty in Washington, D.C.?
No.
New York City?
No.
Or Philadelphia?
Correct.
And
I'd like to wager $50.
okay. There's no. You get $10 if you get it correct.
Got it.
Otherwise, you get nothing. And they had little
Podium
cards with all 3 answers, and they had to each hold up their card with the back facing out, and then when it got to your turn, you would turn it around to reveal what you guessed. And it was always funny, especially as an adult, as a very well-educated adult, incredibly smart, genius level IQ adult. It was funny to me when like the first 2 people would get the pretty obvious answer correct, and then the third one would have the wrong answer and have to turn theirs over after already learning that it's the incorrect answer, and kind of sheepishly like, I guessed Mozambique.
And then the host is like,
no,
did you not
it's
hear?
not.
That's wrong. Right, I just told
Yeah,
you.
I told you it was Philadelphia. So
I'm sorry. So out of New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., this person answered Mozambique.
you thought it was a trick question.
He crossed out one of them and wrote over Mozambique.
Haha, they won't get me. I know where Ben Franklin discovered electricity. A country, not a city at all.
That's what your American education taught you, Philadelphia.
So there were probably about 3 questions in the first round like this. And then there was a break so that Greg Lee could check in with the chief.
Yeah.
And he goes into the chief's office, and there's what clearly appears to be a pre-recorded skit.
Sure.
Happens at this point in time. And they talk about the case, quote unquote, a little bit, and maybe offer a few more clues, because ultimately you're trying to track this person down and find out where they are so that we can apprehend them.
Yeah.
So there may be a few more clues leading us in the direction of this person. Then there are things like they're promoting, if you write down what country the criminal is found in for 5 weeks in a row on a postcard, you can send it into their headquarters, and every day 5 lucky people that got them all right will be selected and sent a Carmen Sandiego t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to look that up.
And they also then announce the 5 people for that episode that were selected that will
you
be
get your
getting a Carmen
name on television.
You get your name on the TV and the city that you live in so that you get your Carmen Sandiego t-shirt. So they're promoting actively paying attention to the show and being involved, which is probably good. And then, that will segue back into the next segment of the show. And keep in mind, this is like a 4-minute segment or something like that. It's not like a quick, like, oh, we'll go into the chief's office here. Oh, I got the next clue. I'm coming back out. It was like a full-on sketch.
Yeah.
And then they come back out, but right before that, I believe, was a lightning round where the questions are only 5 points
and
each.
It was buzzer in.
And it was buzzer in rather than having the cards there. They put them up on the screen and you had to buzzer in, and it was much quicker questions instead of long stories leading you somewhere. Again, all geography-based questions. And so then after the chief's office, there were a few more questions. This is where we might get a musical segment from Rockapella, where they will give us a big song about the former USSR.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then based on their big song, you had to answer a question about what country this person might be in at the time. And then after this round, the contestant with the lowest score is eliminated.
They are tarred, feathered, and kicked out the door.
No, they're given like a gumshoe travel bag.
Oh.
Which has like a Carmen Sandiego t-shirt and a couple things like that in there. And that's about it. Another almanac.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. A couple cheap things, like $10 to $15 worth of stuff, I would say, is what they get.
Yeah.
And then we're down to the final
like at that point,
2 contestants.
I would be like, can I just take my Carmen bucks? Can I just take those?
Yeah.
Can we just turn that into real bucks?
Yes.
I'll gladly take $50 out of here.
So at this point in the game, prior to the third place person being eliminated, we've determined what country our crook is in.
Mm-hmm.
Generally the United States. Look at these billionaires building their spaceships to steal from all their underpaid workers so they can go in space.
This Patty is hanging out with one of her billionaire friends who just got back from space in a spaceship that looked like a caca.
By the way, quote unquote space.
Sure.
Jeff Bezos.
How high have you been? 35,000, like a fucking idiot.
I've been pretty high.
Like a fucking idiot.
Here's the thing about this, and I've said this to a few people already, because it's upsetting to me.
Sure.
I like space. I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go to space. Jeff Bezos, and probably Richard Branson, I don't really know. He's not American, so I don't care about him. But Jeff Bezos, he went up to space a week ago or something.
Sure.
And he went 66 miles above the surface of Earth. We live in Dallas area.
Mm-hmm.
Waco is 100 miles away. So I'm not impressed that he didn't even get further away than Waco is. Like, I think if you really are in space, you're further away than any place I could be on Earth.
But it's up.
Yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't count. And the fact that in 1961, which was 60 years ago, based on my quick math.
No.
60 years ago.
Wouldn't it be 80 years ago?
No.
Oh, because 40.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
So in 1961, Alan Shepard hero, great man. He went up into space for 9 hours. And the amount of technology that we had in 1961 is like a mechanical pencil, basically. That was the height of technology in 1961, was mechanical pencils.
Dope.
And Alan Shepard went up into space for 9 hours. And 60 years later, Jeff Bezos is bragging about going into space for like 3 minutes.
Here's the thing.
Jeff Bezos played just the tip, and he's bragging about losing his virginity. All right?
This is, first of all, still lost your virginity. Second of all, nobody seems to understand what these flights were. They were an advertisement.
For Amazon?
When
For Jeff Bezos himself? God Emperor Jeff?
when you watch a commercial for a particular product, does that commercial tell you everything about the product? How it's made? Who buys it? Does it give you the entire Wikipedia page for that product?
Sometimes if it's like an infomercial.
It just gives you a little snippet of the experience you could have if you use the product. That's what this was. It was a short 3-minute commercial on a Snapchat feed that you look at. It's a Sports Center Snapchat feed.
Build a base on the moon or shut the fuck up, all right? That's what I've got to say.
Build a base on the moon.
Yeah. And then we can hide Carmen
And you've always said
Sandiego
that.
and her henchmen there.
Ooh, but it wouldn't be where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Where in space is Carmen Sandiego?
See, that's just stupid because space is unending.
Well, they built that game in 1998 or something like that because there have been like 25 of them now.
Wow.
So after the third place person is eliminated, we've now narrowed down what country our crook is in.
Mm-hmm.
And the chief comes on now. This part is weird to me because the chief comes on now to share some places in this country that the crook maybe is at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically just to highlight places of note in a country that we're probably not familiar with to this point. Like, oh, look at this cool statue in this town in this country. Look at this government-built Capitol building and where that is, things like that. And so there are 15 of those things that are about to go up on the board. But the chief only talks to us about like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And those 4 have no additional significance other than those are the 4 that the chief talked about.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, there's 10 or 11 more.
I think it's to throw the kids off as to what to guess.
Because they're always going to guess one of those ones that the chief talked
Chief
about.
talks about Queen's Staircase a lot. And then you flip it over and it's just red footsteps. You fucking idiot kid.
Because now what happens is these 15 places are up on the board.
Sort of like a haphazard Jeopardy board.
Yeah. And the 2 contestants alternate yelling out one of those places, and then it flips over, and for 12 of those 15 things, it's just red footsteps, which means nothing. And then under 3 of those things is the warrant.
Which you should probably already had at the beginning.
Before doing all of this. International hopping around.
Yeah.
The criminal and the loot. So your job is to find those 3 things. And anytime, if you find one of them, you get a second guess on your turn.
Yeah.
However, you need to find the loot, the warrant, and the crook in that order.
Why would the warrant not be first?
Don't worry about it, because once you found the loot, you go, oh, definitely guilty. There's loot here.
Okay.
So you have to, if you find the warrant and then you guess again and you correctly land on the loot, and then you guess again and you correctly land on the crook, too bad. It's the other person's turn now, and they just have to do it in the right order.
That sucks.
So once somebody has found the loot, every guess after that, you've got to guess the space with the loot on it first, just in case you get the other ones or whatever. So it's basically just not a very educational part of the show. No trivia involved or anything like that. It's just yelling names of things and hoping to see what you want to see underneath them.
Yeah, which that is life sometimes.
That is life sometimes. And whoever does that first wins the game. And the second place person now, they're eliminated. But
so the game's over. This person has won. They beat the other contestant, and then they get the prizes and go home.
Hold on. The second place person, now they get the traveler bag and like a Walkman or something, a tape player, a radio maybe. Mm-hmm. And that's their prize. And they're out.
And the experience that they just
had.
And
the experience and the knowledge that they've just acquired.
Right.
So now we've got our winner. And our winner, does not just leave. Because now you've got a chance to find Carmen Sandiego herself.
Wow.
The leader of this ring of miscreants.
Vile. She's the vile queen.
The vilest of them all.
Yeah.
Carmen Sandiego. You've got a chance to track her down. And so they basically go to what they call Carmen's World Map. And it is a big, gigantic map of a region of the world on the floor. And the announcer, or I think the chief, yells out, "Carmen's in one of these locations," and calls out like 10 to 12 locations that are on this map.
Yeah.
And they all get highlighted for a second as she says them.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. And now the gumshoe has 45 seconds to our host, Greg Lee, will then say, "Oh, she was last seen in this place." And it's
Mozambique.
It's one of the places that was just mentioned and highlighted. And you've got to remember on this unmarked map which place that is. And you go put a little marker on it.
A little marker?
Okay. A 4 foot tall pole.
With a police siren on top.
With the police light on top of it. Because if it's right, then it flashes. And if it's wrong, he goes, "Nope, try again."
Yep.
And you try one more time. And if you're wrong again, move on.
You have to go to
question.
the next one.
Next location.
Which, don't you have to get all of them right in order to win?
You have to get 7 of them right.
Oh, okay.
And I think in season 1 it was 7, and then in the following seasons it was 8, maybe.
Jeez.
In 45 seconds, that's a lot. Especially like this episode that we're talking about where Patty Larceny stole a city with a camera.
Correct.
It was Africa. And boy, that is a hard one for geography.
It's mainly because of how many.
There are so many countries in Africa. It is absurd.
And also the names don't make it easier.
Right. And just due to the nature of Africa, aside from like the northernmost countries and South Africa, there are not many countries in Africa that are involved in geopolitics. So you don't interact with them much if you're not in them.
Yeah.
So it's hard for most people outside of Africa to know where these countries are, I think. And I feel like the same way about like Southeast Asia, where there's like 1 billion countries all on top of each other also.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't
America
know. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. North America, there's like 3. How am I supposed to keep track? So it's tricky. 45 seconds. If you've got to get 8, you've got 6 seconds per. You've got to really like not be missing these.
This map is large.
You got to run across it.
You have to cover a lot of
space. You got
space.
little 10-year-old legs.
Yeah.
And you're holding a big pole.
Yeah. Why are you holding a dumbbell?
5 pounds. It's a 4 foot. It's like 4 feet worth of 5-pound dumbbells with a light on top. So it's very tricky. But if you do complete the goal, then you get to go anywhere you want in North America on a trip. Which you
have written down before.
Yes, before you started competition, you had to write it down and they hide it away in a little box. And then if you lose, disregard that. We never even look at it again. But if you win, they pull it out of the box and they say, "You're going to blah," unless your parents say, "No, you can't go there," because you're 11 at best.
Right.
So that is the entire format of the game show. It was and this is the same of the computer game as well as the game show. The crimes are often absurd, ridiculous. So this episode, because there's a lot of puns involved in this all the time, this episode that we're talking about was called the Williams Burglary. And this was, so at the beginning, we get some backstory on Colonial Williamsburg, which is a cool little place.
That had slaves.
They did mention...
That chief gets to tell you about.
They did mention the slave part, without really going into detail about why they were mentioning the slave part. But they did mention that there were slaves there in the 15, 16, 1700s.
And for some reason, Patty didn't steal those.
Whoa. So they talk about the history of Williamsburg and how in, I guess the late 1800s or something like that, it kind of became colonial Williamsburg, where the people there live like it's the 16 or 1700s. And so you go to visit it I went there on a school trip in 8th grade.
From New York?
From here.
Oh, what? How?
Because like after 8th grade,
Were you in PA classes?
After 8th grade, there was a Washington, D.C. trip that you could go to for your social studies or something like that.
I did not go to that.
I did. And part of it, we went to Colonial Williamsburg. There was only like maybe 15 of us that went. I think there were maybe a couple different trips. There was like 15 on the one that I went to, I want to say, something like that. Less than 20, more than 10.
Yeah.
So they tell us about Colonial Williamsburg, and then they say that Patty Larceny went there with her camera, and she wasn't just taking pictures, she was taking them for good. And so she stole all of the stuff in Colonial Williamsburg. And I'm talking courthouses, homes, trees.
Yep.
She stole it all.
She
and
left
we've got to track
sand, ground, and the sky.
And she is traveling all over the world with Colonial Williamsburg in tow at the moment.
In a photo album.
In a photo album. They did clarify that it's in her photo album. And we needed to recover that photo album so we can get all these people that are stuck in there out.
Yeah.
So very weird crimes. Which again is another aspect of how weird this show was.
Yeah.
Because that's the premise we're set up. This is an educational show. We are learning, we are teaching, and the first thing we teach is that you can take photos to steal people's souls, basically. That's the first thing that we're teaching.
Yeah.
Is that you can have a museum if you want it, just stolen by taking a picture of it.
And use your imagination.
So very, very weird aspect of the show. Also interesting, so this debuted in 1991. It was filmed, the first season, and in between them like completing filming and it starting airing, we had the dissolution of the USSR and Yugoslavia. And so a lot of the quote unquote correct answers on the show when it aired were incorrect by that point.
Yeah.
So then they started recording that would air at the end of the episode, a little disclaimer from the chief about how all of these questions were right at the time of recording. Things change quickly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny that this whole geography show, the first season, was all entirely inaccurate.
Yeah. Because
a major, massive world event happened in the couple months it took to get on the air. So, like I said, this lasted for several seasons. It won Emmy Awards. It won a Peabody. Lynn Thigpen got put into the video games. And then there was a touring live show as well. Which, I guess the smart thing about that is you can do the same crime every time because you're in a new city.
Ooh.
And so the people are only seeing it if they attend it live. And, you didn't probably... you're not... it's not like a fish tour where you're following them around the nation to see what's going on with Carmen Sandiego in this location. So
it's like
the people in Biloxi get the same show as the people in Greensboro.
I mean, that's how musicians do it. You're not hearing different songs every
They don't
time.
write new music before every show.
No.
And that's unfair that it's that easy for them.
Right.
So that was the way the Carmen Sandiego live show worked as well. I'm sure. In 1994, Fox started an animated show called Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, which was just a cartoon about ACME teenage detectives trying to track down Carmen Sandiego and her henchmen around the world, and trying to be educational in the show as well. Then, after the end of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego in 1996, in 1997, they made Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego game show.
Stop it.
So this one, they found out, okay, we're getting better at geography as a nation, but we're real bad at history still.
Oh, I thought I'd be real bad at telling time.
Yeah. What? Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? 4:30. So this was all historical stuff. And again, they headed this one off at the pass before they started. Make sure episode 1, they had a disclaimer that all this stuff was accurate at the time of recording in case history changed in the meantime. So this show aired for 115 episodes over 2 seasons. So still quite a bit of Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego out there. But Rockapella was replaced on this one. So that's not cool.
With what?
It was just kind of like a house band.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry.
Emo Capella?
Yeah, it was Emo Capella in 1996 or 7. And Greg Lee was replaced by a guy named Kevin Shinnick.
Because Greg Lee went on to do News Radio 2.0.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
He was still searching for his star, chasing that moment in the spotlight.
The star was his Carmen.
But of course, Lynn Thigpen returned as the chief.
Yeah. Can't replace the chief.
Cannot replace the chief. She was essential to the show. So that aired for 2 seasons. It was fairly similar in format, except it was historical-based questions rather than geography-based questions. I think we all think of Carmen Sandiego as a geography teacher more than anything else. Although there were, over the course of the years in the games, because there was a Where in Time game in like 1989, so almost a decade before this show came out, because they had to, crank these things out as quickly as possible. At one point, here's a weird little trivia fact about it. They had the idea of, okay, well, we'll work with state level educators, and we will have different state versions of the game, because they had like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Where in the US is Carmen Sandiego, Where in Europe is Carmen Sandiego, things like that, additions. And so they said, we'll make one for each state, and the state level educators can then teach about their state history and geography through this game. And they had a whole curriculum with it, and a teaching guidebook that went along with it that would go out to the teachers at the schools and things like that. And so they made Where in North Dakota is Carmen Sandiego. And then they never made any single other state.
Why would you start there?
I don't know.
There's like 3 cities in North Dakota.
I don't know. But there is a computer game out there. It is very rare. It was thought to be lost. I think for a long period of time, people didn't know it existed. It was lost to history. It has since been uncovered. There are 3 copies of it known to be in existence at this point in time. Where in North Dakota is Carmen Sandiego? A real live computer game made by Broderbund. So I thought that was so weird and funny.
Yeah.
In around 2000, the turn of the century, Carmen Sandiego became passé. They stopped making their dozens of computer games at that point. I think the rights to it got passed around to different people and things like that. Kind of disappeared off the map, if you will.
Uh-oh.
And then in 2017, Netflix announced, we're going to make a new Carmen Sandiego cartoon. And so they've made, as of this year, 4 seasons. I believe this was the 4th and final season of a Netflix cartoon that was just called Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
And the twist to this one, not a big fan of.
She's white.
Yeah. No, she's good.
So why are you chasing her?
So Carmen Sandiego. Well, it's not called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. It's just called Carmen Sandiego.
Sure. Okay.
And she's the main character.
Uh-huh.
And she was adopted. She was born with the name Black Sheep.
Mm.
And she was adopted by the Vile organization.
Okay.
And raised by them on Vile Island. And then as she came of age, she started to realize, hey, we're doing some bad shit here. I'm not on board.
So she reverse Rumspringered.
She reverse Rumspringered. Exactly. That's how they describe it in the children's cartoon as well, as a reverse Rumspringer. And so she is working to undo all of these thefts by stealing stuff from Vile and replacing it back to where it's supposed to go. And there's still kind of Acme on the periphery, and they don't know that she's good.
So she's Robin Hood now.
Yeah, exactly. She's Robin Hooding Vile.
Okay.
And it's all about her. So there are 4 seasons of this show on Netflix. You can watch right now. You can also watch Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, the 90s cartoon, on Paramount Plus.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, the game shows don't exist on any streaming service for some reason.
I don't know why. They look great.
So you've got to go to YouTube to track those down. But
And guess what? It's worth it.
There's a good number of episodes that you can find on YouTube. Not 295 7-time Emmy Award-winning episodes, but there are episodes out there on YouTube that you can track down and really educate yourself on what geography was as of the early 90s at least. And I don't know how much has changed. Probably not a lot. Geography? How are you with geography? Well, you don't know where the oceans
North Dakota
are.
doesn't exist anymore.
Well, obviously that one. That's a big one.
Not great. A couple years ago, our friends invited us over to go to a 4th of July party that she does every year. And she has fun little games, and somebody comes out first, second, or third winner, and they win prizes.
Right.
One of the games was to write down as many states as you possibly could in the United States. So you had a blank piece of paper.
How much time do you have?
I think you had 2 minutes.
I could probably get most of them.
That's cool. So I got 31, and then I made funny names based on the shapes of those states because I felt
like you could picture the shape. Oh wait, you had a map.
You had a map.
Oh, okay.
So it had the map blank, just a outline of the states.
Got it.
And you had to write in there.
Uh-huh.
So I made funny names because I felt so insecure about only being able to do 30 of them.
Uh-huh.
And because that's barely 50%.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. And so when she was reading out the results, she said, and this person, wins for funniest names, but, they got 30 right. And David Allison goes, what? And I felt really bad because...
So did you get the least, right?
Yeah, oh, by far.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like a tie between like 49 and 47.
Oh.
Or not tie, but that's
right.
like, yeah.
How do you feel about that today?
Oh, I feel terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel bad.
All right. So on the heels of that, why don't we go into a lightning round?
It's a lightning round.
You're going to put a giant lightning symbol right
There's
here?
going to be a big
along
lightning
with
bolt that's going to crash down.
Yes. Okay. Welcome to Lightning Round. We are going...
As I just bragged about how I can name all the states, now I'm going to get put to the test. Maybe.
Well, this one is... You have 10 seconds to name all the states.
Jesus. Alabama, Alaska, Alabama, Arkansas.
Did you say Alabama twice?
No.
Okay.
I hope not.
Where in the world
is Carmen Sandiego? I don't know.
Is Carmen Sandiego? I'm going to give you a little story. Carmen's going to jump across the world.
Okay.
And I'm going to have a little clue in there, and I need you to tell me where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, and then we're going to end with a little quick double lightning round.
Can you do it in a cappella form?
No,
okay.
I cannot. If we had, the tools to do what T-Pain uses.
Auto-tune?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then we might be able to.
Okay.
Carmen is in the country that has the most natural lakes.
Is that it? That's all. That's my
That's
whole
the first
clue?
one. This is where she's starting her journey.
Oh, and I have to guess what this country is.
Correct.
The country that has the most natural lakes.
It is like a large country. This is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many lakes?
The most.
Okay.
I will tell you, is on the left side of a map.
Is on the left side of a map.
South America or North America.
Okay. I'm gonna guess the United States.
Canada.
Canada. Oh, that makes sense. I
Right,
guess.
because
Yeah.
it's so fucking giant.
Yeah.
She then hopped south and toured Machu Picchu in this country.
Peru.
Correct. The heat got to Carmen and she cooled down in the state with the motto, North to the future.
State, like a United State.
Mhm.
North to the future.
Is the motto of this state. Now keep in mind, the heat got to Carmen and she cooled down.
She wanted to cool down by going north to the future. Minnesota.
Alaska.
Okay, that's north.
Carmen narrowly avoided death by hypothermia by cutting open a bear and using his entrails as a warm blanket.
Wow.
She ended her pursuit in the smallest independent country on Earth.
The Vatican City.
Correct. In order to trap Carmen and bring her to justice, you have to name the country that matches to the following city.
Okay.
Queensland.
That's Australia.
Correct. Bigfoot.
That's a city?
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Is the name of a city?
Yes.
Canada.
You think Bigfoot is a Canadian city?
Why not? Where else would Bigfoot be?
America.
Oh.
So clearly America.
Oh, sorry. What state?
Presidente Prudente.
Presidente Prudente is the city?
Yes.
In Colombia.
Brazil.
Oh,
Punky Doodle's Corners.
that's not the name of the city.
Yes.
Punky Doodle's Corners.
Yes.
New Zealand.
Canada. Westward Ho! Exclamation point.
An exclamation point is in the name of a city.
Yes.
No.
Just guess it.
Okay. Latvia.
United Kingdom.
Ugh.
So Carmen definitely got away from you.
That's ridiculous.
And on this show, you don't take anything home.
No,
You know what?
this-
No. I'll Venmo you 20 Carmen bucks.
How come like some of them were like Queensland, a
Right.
very large populous city in Australia,
Sure.
and some of them were like westward Ho!
I don't know.
Exclamation point.
Why?
Oh, weird. What state is Bigfoot in? You didn't answer that.
I mean, I'll look it up on the website that I found these, which is goofy sounding cities.
It feels like a little homophobic if Queensland is a goofy sounding city to them.
Yeah. Wow.
Goofy
I typed in
sounding city.
Bigfoot and the autocorrect was Bigfoot American flag shirt.
That's the only thing it needs to be. Vatican City, smallest city in the world or smallest country in the world?
It's in Texas.
Really? Bigfoot, Texas. Second, I'm about to go to the second. I've been to the. Shut up, Siri.
At this point, we have to credit Siri as a co-host, right?
Here's what I found.
He made so many interjections.
I've been to Vatican City, the smallest city
In
the
your
world,
8th grade
or
trip?
the smallest country in the world. No, that was my 7th grade trip.
Okay.
And in a couple weeks, I'm going to be in the second smallest country in the world. Can you name that?
Your dick.
Hey, Monaco. Monaco. But yeah, the geography's hard.
The male version of the name Monica.
That's true. That is correct. Monica and Monaco are a pair of fraternal twins. So, Carmen Sandiego, do you have ways that you would make this game show better?
No,
even?
this was a borderline perfect game show.
Wow. What would you put on a buzzer rating for
Because of 1, production value.
Okay.
2, well-oiled show. 3, a good mix of games with the buzzer, multiple choice, and wager. The awesome set design.
They
and
move around sets. That's the other thing. Like the rounds, like once the first person is eliminated, they're like, oh, we've got to go to this country to find the person. And so then they go to another set where they're quote unquote in that country. And then like the Carmen's world map is a whole nother set as well.
Correct. I thought it all looked wonderful. The theme was so persistent between every single scene, and the Rockapella group. I give this a 4.8.
4.8 out of 5 buzzers. All right, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 buzzers. My main issue is that I loved all of the things that you mentioned as well, but because of them, there were like 6 questions in the whole show. So that made it a little tougher for me. Like I'm like, come on, ask another fucking question already.
Right.
I want to see if I'm smarter than this 11-year-old from 1992.
And they were smart back then.
Yeah, of course they were. I was not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good show. I think they're so after the Netflix series, they started making more games again. So I think they need to bring back the game show.
I hope they do. And I hope that
the world's all different now.
I hope that Mark Summers sits down in his gross ass chair full of crumbs and sadness and lost hopes and dreams that never came to fruition.
Wow.
And he watches this show and says, "Oh, this is what Double Dare could have been."
With
if
a
Double
budget.
Dare had
a budget,
$700,000 more dollars and 150 more crew members.
Yep.
That's what
There's
Double
a
Dare
lot
could
of
have
people
been.
involved in this show. And there were moments where people would just run across the stage for no real reason.
Right.
Like weird stuff happened on this. In some ways, this show reminded me is if like you said, "Hey, Chris Gethard, we need to make a children's game show really fast."
Yeah.
This is kind of what would come of that.
Mm-hmm. A
Like
little
just-
bit of controlled chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of nonsense happening throughout and it being just wild and entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? We don't know. We may never know.
We never know. And also, if you do find her, please tell her that I love her.
If you do
Please
find
come
her,
home.
please tell the authorities. We need to have her apprehended and put on death row.
No, fuck the authorities. Find an
Alongside Rodney
11-year-old that has
Alcala.
gum on their shoes and tell them because they've been tracking them down.
That's true. We need to our ACME gumshoes.
Yeah.
The cops are useless. Interpol.
Yeah.
Morons.
Here's the thing. Here's an idea. Fire all the cops. Bring in all the gumshoes. I don't want cops controlling my CDs and being corrupt. I want 11-year-olds with magnifying glasses stopping crime.
How many 11-year-olds have killed a black guy? See you guys next week.
I feel like we have to end on. That's a perfect question to end on.
Check us out on Instagram.